The sleek, silver spacecraft sliced through Earth's atmosphere, its hull shimmering with an otherworldly iridescence. Inside the command center, Luna stood tall, her azure skin gleaming under the ship's ambient lighting. Her piercing violet eyes scanned the faces of her elite team of Amazonian warriors. "Sisters," Luna's voice rang out, clear and commanding. "Our mission is simple. Conquer this primitive world swiftly and efficiently. Remember your training. Show no mercy. We strike at the heart of their largest city, and from there, we'll bring this planet to its knees." A chorus of affirmative responses echoed through the chamber. Luna allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Soon, Earth would be theirs. Mike groaned as his alarm blared, the obnoxious sound drilling into his skull. He fumbled for his phone, knocking over an empty beer can in the process. Great start to another thrilling day in paradise, he thought sarcastically. Dragging himself out of bed, Mike stumbled to the bathroom, narrowly avoiding tripping over a pile of laundry. He squinted at his reflection in the mirror, disheveled brown hair, stubble that was quickly approaching unkempt hobo territory, and bloodshot eyes that screamed, "I hate mornings and everything they stand for." "Looking good, stud," he muttered to himself. "The ladies won't be able to resist you today." As he went through his morning routine, Mike's mind wandered to the soul-crushing tedium that awaited him at work. Another day of data entry, office politics, and pretending to care about TPS reports. Sometimes he wondered if alien abduction might be a welcome change of pace. Little did Mike know, the universe had a twisted sense of humor and was about to grant his wish, sort of. Mike trudged down the crowded city sidewalk, clutching his coffee like a lifeline. The cacophony of car horns and construction noise grated on his already frayed nerves. He was so lost in his own misery that he almost missed the collective gasp that rippled through the crowd around him. A blinding flash lit up the sky, momentarily turning day into night. Mike's head snapped up, coffee forgotten as he stared in disbelief at the massive object hurtling towards the city center. "Holy shit," he breathed. "Either that's the world's biggest shooting star, or we're about to have some very unexpected visitors." Panic erupted on the streets as people realized this was no natural phenomenon. Screams filled the air as pedestrians and vehicles alike scrambled to escape the impact zone. But Mike found himself rooted to the spot, unable to tear his eyes away from the unfolding spectacle. The spacecraft, and there was no doubt in Mike's mind now that it was indeed a spacecraft, executed a series of impossible maneuvers as it descended. It moved with a grace that defied the laws of physics, coming to rest with surprising gentleness in the middle of the now deserted town square. For a moment, everything was eerily still. Then, with a hiss of depressurizing air, a hatch opened in the side of the vessel. Mike's jaw dropped as the first figure emerged. She, and it was unmistakably a she, was tall, easily over 6 feet, with a lithe, athletic build that spoke of immense strength and agility. But it was her skin that truly captured his attention, a rich, vibrant blue that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. As more of the alien warriors exited the ship, Mike's brain struggled to process what he was seeing. They were all female, all possessed of an otherworldly beauty that made his heart race. But it was their leader who truly took his breath away. She stood at the forefront, surveying the area with an imperious gaze. Her features were sharp and regal, framed by cascading waves of silvery hair. And when her eyes, a mesmerizing shade of violet, locked onto his, Mike felt as though he'd been struck by lightning. Without conscious thought, he took a step forward. The alien leader's eyes widened slightly, clearly not expecting to find a human still present. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other. Then, To Mike's utter astonishment, she smiled. It wasn't a warm smile exactly. There was still an edge of predatory intent behind it, but it was genuine and it transformed her already stunning face into something truly breathtaking. Before he could stop himself, Mike blurted out the first thing that came to mind. So, come here often? The alien tilted her head, brow furrowing in confusion. I do not understand. This is our first visit to your world. Mike couldn't help but chuckle. Sorry, bad joke. I'm Mike, and you are? I am Luna, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Amazonian Armada, she replied, her voice carrying a musical lilt that sent shivers down Mike's spine. We have come to conquer your planet. Ah, Mike nodded sagely. Well, as Earth's official welcoming committee, let me just say, please don't. We're kind of attached to the place. Luna's eyes narrowed, but there was a glimmer of amusement in their depths. You are either very brave or very foolish, Mike of Earth. Why not both? He grinned. So, Luna, got any plans after the whole subjugating humanity thing? Because I know this great little coffee shop around the corner. They make a mean latte. One of Luna's companions stepped forward, her expression thunderous. My lady, we should eliminate this insolent male and proceed with our mission. But Luna held up a hand, silencing her subordinate. Peace, Zara. I find this human ... intriguing. She turned back to Mike, a challenging glint in her eye. Tell me, Mike of Earth, why should we spare your world? Mike's mind raced. He knew he was walking a dangerous line, but he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something special about this encounter. Well, for starters, we've got some pretty amazing stuff here on Earth. Music, art, literature. Have you ladies ever tried pizza? Because let me tell you, that alone is worth preserving the planet for. A flicker of curiosity passed over Luna's face. Pizza? What is this pizza you speak of? Oh man, you're in for a treat, Mike grinned. It's like, imagine the most delicious thing you've ever tasted, then multiply that by 1,000. We could grab a slice, maybe catch a movie. Cultural exchange and all that. Much more fun than global domination, if you ask me. Luna's lips twitched, fighting back a smile. You are a strange one, Mike of Earth. Perhaps there is more to your species than we initially believed. The moment was shattered by the sudden wail of sirens. Military vehicles were converging on their position, soldiers pouring out with weapons raised. Luna's expression hardened, her body tensing for battle. But as she glanced back at Mike, something in her eyes softened. It seems our conversation must be cut short. A pity. I find myself curious about this world of yours. Hey, no reason it has to end here, Mike said quickly. Why don't you ladies take a rain check on the whole invasion thing? Come back in a week or two, I'll show you the sights. Earth's Greatest Hits VIP tour. For a moment, Luna seemed to consider his words. Then, with a decisive nod, she turned to her warriors. Sisters, we retreat for now. There is much about this planet we do not yet understand. We will regroup and reassess our strategy. As the Amazons began to file back into their ship, Luna paused at the entrance. She fixed Mike with an intense stare that made his heart skip a beat. Until we meet again, Mike of Earth, I look forward to learning more about your pizza. With that, she disappeared into the vessel. The engines hummed to life, and in a matter of seconds the spacecraft had vanished into the sky, leaving behind a stunned crowd and a shell-shocked military force. Mike stood there, staring at the empty space where the ship had been, a goofy grin spreading across his face. Best day ever. As soldiers swarmed the area, shouting questions and demanding explanations, Mike couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a very interesting turn. He had a date with destiny, and she was blue, beautiful, and potentially bent on world domination. Just another Tuesday in the life of Mike Stevens, accidental diplomat to the stars. The days following the alien encounter passed in a blur for Mike. He'd been questioned by every government agency with an acronym, sworn to secrecy, which he promptly ignored by posting a heavily filtered selfie with the spaceship in the background, and become an overnight social media sensation. Yet as the initial excitement faded, Mike found himself inexplicably disappointed. He kept scanning the skies, hoping for a glimpse of that sleek spacecraft. More importantly, he couldn't shake the memory of those piercing violet eyes. "Get it together, Stevens," he muttered to himself as he navigated the crowded aisles of his local supermarket. "She's an alien, probably halfway across the galaxy by now. Besides, intergalactic relationships are way too complicated. The long-distance calls alone would bankrupt you." He was so lost in his internal monologue that he nearly collided with another shopper. "Sorry, I wasn't looking where—" The words died in his throat as he found himself staring into those same mesmerizing eyes that had been haunting his dreams. Luna stood before him, looking comically out of place in an oversized hoodie and sweatpants. Her silvery hair was tucked under a baseball cap, but there was no hiding the vivid blue of her skin. "Greetings, Mike of Earth," she said, her voice low and melodious. "I find myself in need of assistance with your primitive food acquisition rituals." Mike blinked, then broke into a grin. "Luna, fancy meeting you here. Love the disguise, by the way. Very college student who rolled out of bed at noon." Luna frowned, glancing down at her attire. "Is it not adequate? We studied your television broadcasts extensively to understand appropriate camouflage." "Oh, it's perfect," Mike chuckled. "If your goal is to blend in with the just-pulled an all-nighter crowd. But hey, who am I to judge? I once went to work with my shirt on inside out." A hint of a smile tugged at Luna's lips. "Your species continues to perplex me, but I find myself intrigued. Perhaps you could enlighten me on the intricacies of Earth cuisine." "It would be my genuine pleasure," Mike replied with an exaggerated bow. "Although I should warn you, my culinary expertise mostly extends to microwaving frozen dinners and ordering takeout." As they made their way through the store, Mike found himself thoroughly enjoying Luna's reactions to everyday items. She marveled at the variety of fruits and vegetables, recoiled in horror at the sight of canned spam. "You willingly consume this gelatinous meat substance?" And became utterly fascinated by the concept of breakfast cereal. "So these are not merely colorful pebbles, but edible sustenance?" Luna asked, examining a box of Fruit Loops with intense scrutiny. "Well, sustenance might be stretching it," Mike laughed, "but they're delicious. Here, let's grab a box. Consider it part of your Earth culture crash course." As they reached the checkout, Luna suddenly tensed. "Mike," she whispered urgently, "I believe we've been compromised. That mechanical device is demanding currency." Mike couldn't help but burst out laughing, earning a glare from the bored-looking cashier. "Relax. It's just a self-checkout machine. Here, let me show you how it works." He guided Luna through the process, enjoying the way her brow furrowed in concentration as she attempted to master this new technology. As they exited the store, Mike realized he was reluctant for their encounter to end. "So, any plans for the rest of the day? Because if you're free, I know this great little park nearby. Perfect for a picnic with your newly acquired Earth snacks." Luna hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her face. "I should return to my sisters. We have much to discuss regarding our mission. Right, the whole conquer Earth thing. Mike nodded sagely. How's that going, by the way? Making any progress on world domination? A troubled look passed over Luna's features. It is complicated. I find myself questioning the wisdom of our initial strategy. Your world is far more complex than we anticipated. Mike's heart skipped a beat. Was it possible she was having second thoughts? He decided to press his advantage. Well, if you ask me, the best way to understand a planet is to experience it firsthand. What do you say to a series of cultural exchange outings? Strictly for research purposes, of course. Luna's eyes lit up with interest. A logical proposal. Yes, I believe such excursions could prove most informative. And so began what Mike would later refer to as the strangest, most exhilarating dating period of his life. Over the next few weeks, he introduced Luna to a whirlwind tour of Earth's greatest hits. Movies. She was particularly fond of Sci-Fi, much to Mike's amusement. Music festivals. The thumping bass nearly sent her into a combat trance. And of course, food. Their pizza date was particularly memorable. Luna approached the slice with the caution of someone defusing a bomb, only to devour half the pie in record time once she'd tasted it. This is extraordinary," she exclaimed, cheese dripping down her chin. "How have you not used this as a weapon of mass distraction?" Mike grinned, handing her a napkin. "Who says we haven't? I'm pretty sure it's single-handedly responsible for the freshman 15. With each outing, Mike found himself growing more and more drawn to Luna. It wasn't just her otherworldly beauty, though that certainly didn't hurt. It was the way her eyes lit up with genuine wonder at new experiences, the sharp wit behind her often literal interpretations of human customs, and the surprising vulnerability she occasionally let slip through her warrior facade. For her part, Luna seemed equally fascinated by Mike. She peppered him with questions about Earth culture, human relationships, and his own life. Mike found himself opening up in ways he never had before, sharing hopes and dreams he'd long since buried under a veneer of sarcasm. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings led to some hilariously awkward moments. There was the time Luna nearly caused a riot at a baseball game by attempting to join the action on the field, convinced it was some form of ritualized combat. Or the incident at the movie theater where she challenged a cardboard standee to a duel, believing it to be a rival warrior. Through it all, Mike couldn't shake the nagging feeling that their time was limited. He knew Luna still had a mission, a duty to her people, and as much as he wanted to believe otherwise, he couldn't forget that she was, quite literally, from another world. Meanwhile, Luna's fellow Amazons were having adventures of their own. Reports of oddly behaved, strikingly beautiful blue women began popping up across the city. There was the group who caused a scene at a nightclub by interpreting the dance floor as a combat arena. Another nearly started an international incident by attempting to conquer a foreign embassy, believing it to be Earth's seat of power. Luna did her best to keep her warriors in check, but it was clear they were all becoming increasingly enamored with Earth culture. Mike often caught snippets of their conversations, filled with excited chatter about human customs, fashion, and most frequently, men. It all came to a head one evening as Mike and Luna strolled through a moonlit park. They'd just come from a concert and Luna was still buzzing with excitement. "I had no idea your species was capable of producing such intensity of emotion through sound waves," she marveled. It was as if the music itself was a tangible force. Mike grinned, enjoying her enthusiasm. "Yeah, there's nothing quite like live music, although I'm pretty sure the mosh pit wasn't quite ready for your, enthusiastic participation. Luna had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. I may have misinterpreted the nature of that particular ritual, but the energy of the crowd was intoxicating. Is it always like that? Not always, Mike admitted. But when it is, man, there's no feeling like it. It's like for a moment, everyone in that crowd is connected, you know? All moving to the same beat, feeling the same thing. It's magical. He trailed off, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. Luna's eyes, luminous in the moonlight, were fixed on his face with an intensity that made his heart race. "I believe I understand," she said softly. "I have felt something similar these past weeks, Mike of Earth. A connection I cannot fully explain, yet find myself unable to ignore." Mike swallowed hard, his mouth suddenly dry. "Luna, But before he could finish his thought, a shrill beeping erupted from Luna's wrist. Her face fell as she glanced at the device. "It's my superior," she said, her voice tight. "They're demanding a progress report on our conquest of Earth." And just like that, the spell was broken. Reality came crashing back, reminding Mike of the impossible gulf between them. He stepped back, forcing a smile he didn't feel. Right, the whole invading alien thing. Almost forgot about that for a second there. Luna looked stricken. "Mike, But now it was his turn to cut her off. "It's okay, Luna. Really, I get it. You've got a job to do, a people to lead. Can't let a little thing like whatever this is get in the way of galactic domination, right?" He turned to go, his chest aching with a pain he hadn't expected. But Luna's hand on his arm stopped him. "Mike, please," she said, her voice uncharacteristically uncertain. "I find myself conflicted. My duty, my entire purpose for being here, it all seems so much less important now. These experiences, this world, it's changing everything I thought I knew." Mike turned back, hope warring with caution in his heart. "What are you saying, Luna?" She took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders as if preparing for battle. "I'm saying that perhaps conquest isn't the answer. Perhaps there's another way for our peoples to coexist, to learn from each other, to connect." The weight of her words hung in the air between them. Mike knew they were standing on the precipice of something monumental, something that could change not just their lives, but the fate of two worlds. "Well," he said finally, a slow smile spreading across his face, "I'd say that sounds like a mission worth exploring. Together?" Luna's answering smile was like the dawn breaking. "Together," she agreed, taking his hand. As they walked through the moonlit park, the future stretching out before them full of possibilities, Mike couldn't help but chuckle. "You know," he mused, "when I wished for my life to get more exciting, this isn't exactly what I had in mind, but I've got to say, I'm not complaining." Luna's laughter, rich and genuine, echoed through the night, and for a moment, everything else, alien invasions, cultural misunderstandings, the fate of two worlds, faded away. There was just this, two beings from different worlds, walking hand in hand under the stars, ready to face whatever the universe might throw at them next. The weeks following Mike and Luna's moonlit revelation passed in a whirlwind of activity. Luna worked tirelessly to convince her fellow Amazons of the merits of peaceful coexistence, while Mike found himself thrust into the role of unofficial ambassador to an alien race. It was exhausting, exhilarating, and utterly surreal. But their newfound equilibrium was about to be shattered. Mike was lounging on his couch, attempting to explain the intricacies of reality TV to a thoroughly baffled Luna, when a blinding flash of light erupted outside his apartment window. "Oh, hell," he muttered, recognizing the telltale sign of an Amazonian spacecraft. I'm guessing that's not the pizza delivery? Luna's face had gone pale, her normally confident demeanor cracking. It's the High Command, she whispered. They've come to see why Earth hasn't fallen. Mike's stomach dropped. He'd known this day might come, but he'd hoped they'd have more time. Okay, don't panic. We'll just explain the situation. They're reasonable, right? I mean, they've got to appreciate the whole peace and love angle we're going for here. Luna's expression did not inspire confidence. They rushed outside to find a massive spacecraft hovering over the city, easily dwarfing Luna's original vessel. A beam of energy pulsed downward, materializing into the imposing form of Supreme Admiral Celeste, flanked by a contingent of heavily armed warriors. Celeste's gaze swept over the assembled Amazons, her lip curling in disgust at their Earth attire. When her eyes landed on Luna, they narrowed dangerously. "Commander Luna!" she boomed, her voice carrying an edge sharper than any weapon. "Explain yourself. Why is this pitiful world not yet under our control?" Luna stepped forward, chin raised defiantly. "Admiral, I've made a discovery of utmost importance. The humans are not the primitive savages we believe them to be. They possess qualities worthy of study, of alliance even. I propose we—" "Silence!" Celeste roared. "I did not travel across galaxies to hear excuses. You were given a simple mission: conquer. Have you become so weak, so corrupted by this world that you've forgotten your purpose?" Mike, never one for self-preservation, chose that moment to interject. "Now hold on just a minute, Lady Smurf. Luna hasn't forgotten anything. She's learned. We all have. There's more to life than just conquering stuff, you know?" Celeste's head snapped towards Mike, her eyes blazing with fury. "You dare address me, insignificant male? I should vaporize you where you stand." "Yeah, well, that wouldn't be very neighborly of you, now would it?" Mike retorted, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Come on, give peace a chance. Haven't you ever heard of make love, not war?" A ripple of nervous laughter spread through the gathered Amazons. Celeste's face contorted with rage. "Enough of this foolishness! Warriors, prepare for immediate conquest. Cleanse this world of its—" Her words died in her throat as she truly took in the appearance of her soldiers for the first time. Every single Amazon, Luna included, stood with hands protectively cradling noticeably rounded bellies. Celeste's jaw dropped, her eyes widening in shock. What is the meaning of this? Are you all—" Luna stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. "Yes, Admiral. We are with child. Earthmen have proven to be surprisingly compatible." Mike's brain short-circuited. He turned to Luna, his voice a strangled whisper. "Wait, I'm gonna be a dad?" Luna's lips quirked in a small smile. "Surprise?" Celeste sputtered, her composure completely shattered. This is unprecedented, an outrage, a complete violation of protocol." Mike, still reeling from the news, found himself speaking without thinking. "Look, I know this isn't exactly how you planned your invasion to go, but maybe it's time for a new plan. I mean, technically, you are conquering Earth. Just one baby at a time." His weak attempt at humor fell flat, but it seemed to snap Celeste out of her shock. She drew herself up to her full, intimidating height. "This changes nothing. We will simply accelerate our timeline. Once the children are born, You will do nothing," Luna interrupted, her voice carrying a steel that Mike had never heard before. She placed a protective hand over her belly, her eyes flashing with determination. "These children are not weapons or tools for conquest. They are the future, a bridge between our worlds." The other Amazons murmured in agreement, forming a protective circle around Luna. Mike felt a surge of pride and affection as he watched the woman he loved stand her ground. Celeste's face twisted with fury. You would betray your own people for these primitives. We're not betraying anyone, Luna countered. We're evolving, growing. Isn't that what true strength is? The ability to change, to learn, to find new paths forward. A tense silence fell over the group. Mike held his breath, acutely aware that the fate of two worlds hung in the balance. Finally, Celeste spoke, her voice tight with barely contained rage. You leave me no choice. If you will not fulfill your duty, then I will complete this mission myself. Prepare for— Wait, Mike shouted, an idea forming. Before you go all death ray on us, why don't you— I don't know. Take a look around. See what Earth has to offer? You might be surprised. Celeste scoffed. And why would I waste my time on such nonsense? Mike grinned, a plan taking shape. Because if you don't, you'll never know if you missed out on something amazing. Come on, what's the harm in a little reconnaissance, unless you're scared? The Admiral's eyes narrowed dangerously. Amazons fear nothing. Prove it, Mike challenged. One day, that's all I'm asking. Let me show you the best Earth has to offer. If you're not impressed, well, I guess we'll all be vaporized anyway, right? Luna shot Mike a look that clearly said, "What are you doing?" But he pressed on, fueled by desperation and a crazy hope that, just maybe, this could work. To everyone's surprise, Celeste nodded curtly. Very well. You have one planetary rotation to convince me of your world's worth. Fail, and I will personally oversee its destruction. What followed was the most surreal 24 hours of Mike's life. He led a contingent of bewildered Amazons on a whirlwind tour of Earth's greatest hits. They marveled at the majesty of natural wonders, debated philosophy with leading minds, experienced the raw emotion of art and music. But it was the simple things that seemed to have the greatest impact: the laughter of children in a park, the kindness of strangers helping each other, the quiet moments of connection between people from all walks of life. As the sun began to set on their incredible day, Mike made one final, desperate play. He brought the group to a small, family-owned restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. "What is this place?" Celeste demanded, clearly unimpressed by the modest exterior. Mike smiled. "This, your royal blueness, is where you're going to have the meal that saves the world." The next few hours were a symphony of flavors, aromas, and most surprisingly, laughter. Mike watched in amazement as the stern Admiral's facade slowly cracked, her eyes widening with each new dish. By the time dessert rolled around, even Celeste was smiling, engaged in animated conversation with the restaurant's elderly matriarch. As they stepped back out into the cool night air, Celeste was uncharacteristically quiet. Finally, she turned to Mike and Luna, her expression unreadable. "I have seen much in my centuries of life," she began slowly, "conquered worlds beyond counting, but never have I encountered a place quite like this. Your Earth is perplexing, chaotic, and yet—" She trailed off, seemingly at a loss for words. Mike held his breath, hardly daring to hope. Celeste's gaze swept over the gathered Amazons, lingering on their rounded bellies. Something in her expression softened, ever so slightly. "Perhaps," she said at last, "there is more to strength than conquest alone." A collective sigh of relief rippled through the group. Luna squeezed Mike's hand, tears shimmering in her eyes. "So, does this mean Earth gets a stay of execution?" Mike ventured. Celeste's lips twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. "It means, Mike of Earth, that we have much to discuss. A new era of cooperation between our peoples, perhaps. The days that followed were a whirlwind of diplomacy, cultural exchange, and more than a few humorous misunderstandings. But through it all, a new understanding began to take shape. A vision of two worlds, not in conflict, but in harmony. It all culminated in a historic press conference, broadcast around the globe. Mike stood beside Luna, his hand resting protectively over her swollen belly as they addressed the citizens of Earth. "People of Earth," Luna began, her voice strong and clear. "We came to your world as conquerors, but we leave as friends, as family. Our children will be a bridge between our peoples, heralding a new age of peace and understanding." Mike stepped forward, grinning at the assembled crowd. "Plus, let's be honest, blue is going to be the hottest fashion trend this season." A ripple of laughter spread through the audience. Luna elbowed him gently, but she was smiling too. "In all seriousness," Mike continued, "we've got a lot of work ahead of us. There's going to be challenges, misunderstandings, probably more than a few interspecies faux pas. But I think we've proven that when we come together, there's nothing we can't overcome." He turned to Luna, his eyes shining with love and hope for the future. "Together?" Luna's smile was radiant. "Together," she agreed. And as their lips met in a kiss that sealed the bond between two worlds, Mike couldn't help but think that sometimes the craziest, most unexpected turns in life led to the most beautiful destinations. As they broke apart, Luna whispered in his ear, "I hope you're ready for diaper duty, Earthman. I have it on good authority that half Amazonian babies are quite energetic." Mike laughed, pulling her close. "Bring it on, spacewoman. After averting an alien invasion, I think I can handle a few superpowered diapers." The future stretched out before them, full of challenges and wonders yet unknown. But as Mike looked out at the sea of faces, human and Amazonian alike, he knew that whatever came next, they'd face it the way they'd faced everything else, together. Well, dear listeners, you've made it to the end of our intergalactic rom-com. We hope you enjoyed this tale of love, laughter, and little blue babies. If you're now considering dating an alien, remember, always check their intentions first. World domination is a major red flag in any relationship. For those of you inspired to learn Amazonian pickup lines, we regret to inform you that "take me to your leader" is terribly outdated. Try "wanna conquer my heart" instead. And finally, a word of caution. If you see any suspiciously blue-skinned individuals in your local supermarket, resist the urge to offer them a tour of Earth. Unless, of course, you're ready for the adventure of a lifetime and potentially changing the fate of two worlds. Thanks for listening, Earthlings. And remember, in space, no one can hear you laugh, but your neighbors definitely can, so keep it down.